Mm.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So that is why we are going to talk today to the Executive Director of NAMI Northeast Region PA. And if you might recall from a couple weeks ago, Gab Bonesso was the guest. Gab has been a serial guest. She has been on the show many times, and we've become, I guess, virtually friends. We have great conversations before and after the podcast recording, and I cannot wait. She is going to be in Scranton on May 4th and May 5th. So like we said, when I spoke with Gab, it's a beautiful transition. April is National Humor Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's so great because humor has amazing power to help us heal. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, some of the events coming up for NAMI, and also just talk about what NAMI does, the importance of talking about mental health, which is health, and breaking the stigma, and all of the wonderful things that NAMI is doing. And you might recall, Marie has actually been a guest before. Marie and I have a lot in common. We love nature, bird watching. I think she hates squirrels as much as I do, but I'm not sure. Kayaking. So please open up your ears and listen to this week's guest, Marie Onukiavage, Executive Director of NAMI Northeast Region PA. Welcome, Marie.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for focusing on this topic. Thank you for talking about the things that we love. It gives me an opportunity to share that I had 10 blue jays at my feeder this morning.
Oh, wow.
I,
That's a
I,
lot.
I don't, yes, and they weren't, I have two separate feeders in my yard, one in the back, and that's where I put my peanuts, and the blue jays, they come, they get a peanut, they leave, they come, they get a peanut, they leave. I also have a feeder in my side yard, and there were 10 all at once. I don't know why. I don't know if they just let, I think it's too early for the babies to be coming around, but there were 10, and I didn't want to do anything else. I had an important meeting this morning. I didn't want to participate in it because I just wanted to watch the blue jays, and talking about humorous and talking about taking care of ourselves and finding ways to to take care of ourselves, watching birds, and in particular, I mean, that people tend to have a love-hate relationship with blue jays because they are aggressive birds, but I love watching them. I don't think they're aggressive. I think that they are the adolescent boy of the bird world. They just come flying in, they're yelling, it's good. They don't care. They don't mess with anyone. I've never seen them pick at any other birds. They're just loud and clumsy. So
I had two this morning, and I will say I have seen them be a little bit bold because they're so big, and I don't think I have a big enough feeder for them, so they kind of make the other birds scatter. But I mean, my bird is, I love seeing the cardinals. I love seeing the little finches, the redheaded finches. I had a redheaded woodpecker on there this morning and yesterday, and for the first time ever, I just added a hummingbird feeder, which I might be too early for, but I never had one, and I'm so excited. I hope I get to see them this year.
yeah, I go back and forth between whether I want to do hummingbird feeders or not. I do put out feeders for the orioles and the catbirds. They like jelly and they like oranges, and so I put those out, but I haven't seen any of them yet, so it might be a little bit too early for them. I do love the cardinals. That was the first bird I saw this morning was a lone male cardinal there, but I've always had a soft spot for the bold boys, so maybe that's why I like the blue jays. I don't. They're just birds being birds. You mentioned the squirrels, and I said I'm at peace with the squirrels. For the most part, I've managed to keep them off of my feeders and on the ground. Every once in a while, a very intrepid, enthusiastic squirrel is able to make the leap from the tree to my feeder, bypass the baffle, and he'll only hang out there for a little while. But I don't have 30 squirrels all over my feeders, not stopping until, all the food is gone. So I'm at peace with them.
I've struggled my whole life with them, Marie. It's been an up and down. I thought I was at peace, but they're at it again. So I will keep trying. But we have really bold squirrels here in Scranton. They're pretty
Yeah.
aggressive. And the only way, and I think I told you, the only way I keep them off is when I put Vaseline on the pole, but it has to be certain degrees. It has to be warm enough that it's slippery. And then they slide right down. And trust me, anyone listening, there is no harm to the squirrels other than maybe to their pride. But believe me, I don't think they let their ego get wounded. They slide down the pole and then they just don't try again that day. And it's a beautiful thing because I put food out for them too on the ground. But
Yeah.
the ones in
They're not
Scranton are kind of
satisfied.
insatiable. They like what's
Yeah.
on the ground and what's in the feeder. So,
Yeah.
but let's move on. I mentioned that because Marie and I share that in common. Is Marie's point about taking care of ourselves. We both love nature, kayaking, watching birds. There is something really peaceful about that. And again, I know some people that complain about them, making noise and waking them up in the morning. For me, they have such a peaceful effect. I'll take that over like revving of dirt bikes and other annoyances that I hear in my neighborhood. So for me, it's just super peaceful to watch them. And there's something that's just so important with taking care of ourselves for our overall well-being. What you say, Marie?
I agree. I agree. Finding and like you said, for everyone, it might be something different. There might be somebody who finds their peace by doing circles on their dirt bike, even though it's causing you some upset. But finding what feeds our soul. That's what I call it. What feeds your soul? We feed our body. We do what what where do we find that peace? And then make sure that we give ourselves that. We're not there's a lot of talk about self-care now. It's kind of it become almost it's trendy to the point where it's overused, and it's almost, the importance of it is diluted. But I don't think that we can. I think it's really important to remember that. I don't think that it can be diluted. I mean, it's not necessarily taking a shower, or even taking a bath, because that's a different kind of self-care. That's activities of daily living, getting clean. But taking a little bit of time to put the struggles of the day, whatever is wearing you down, whatever's causing you stress, whatever is causing you distress, putting it down for a little while. And if you do that while, sitting there watching the birds, if you do that while doing circles on a dirt bike, if you do that while laughing, it helps us to recover and create resilience. And that's why, some of the things that you and I are working on and that we're hoping to talk about today are really important, because that's what it comes down to. I mean, humor doesn't get rid of all the stresses and all the struggles of the day, but it lets us put them down for a little while. And when we put them down, we can refresh and we can recover and we can gain resilience.
Yeah. And it's interesting because really nothing puts all the problems down, right? It doesn't matter. But like humor and laughter will sometimes get a bad rap because people, I've just heard a few naysayers here and there, like, how can you possibly laugh at a time like this? How can you find humor in things? Or, hey, that's a serious topic. You shouldn't be laughing at that. And so for me, I'm coming from a place of like laughter yoga isn't about humor. So that's about wellness. But even as someone who I write comedy, I perform comedy, as long as you're not outright hurting someone, which is different from taking offense. And I don't want to get on that topic today, but everybody out in an audience could be having a different experience and one word might set them off. So I would ask them, okay, then you could leave the room. You could sit there and say, this person's not funny, but as people who are writing humor, we're trying to find what we find humorous in our challenges. It's not meant to be hurtful. And as you said, you take a moment to put down the stressors. And when we actually can find the humor in something that's really serious, and I know people who've done this nationally and internationally, they have programs for that. The gentleman in Canada, Stand Up for Mental Health, who teaches people with mental health disorders to write stand-up comedy. There's a great amount of power and healing in using humor because you're in charge. You're not letting someone else or something else be in charge. You're handling it and you're feeling better by using humor. And again, that can be challenged these days. It's understandable. But as you said, it's not fixing the problem. It's not erasing the problem. It's helping us to feel reinvigorated, maybe more powerful to keep going, to face those challenges.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. In mental health, we talk about, having that toolbox or toolkit of things that we draw upon to take care of ourselves. And I think humor is one of those strategies. Whether you're finding some humor in your situation, even if it's difficult. Mental health, mental illness in and of itself is it's not, something to joke about, but sometimes the way things roll out, sometimes the way things stack up, sometimes the irony of things, we can laugh at them. NAMI runs support groups throughout the community, and laughter is a big part of those support groups. We support each other by laughing together. We talk about spending time with people and sharing our experiences and how connecting that is, and sharing a meal with someone. I think everyone understands that and how much of a connection that creates. But laughing with someone is another way of creating those connections. So you're even a step closer to the things that we need to help our wellness. You're not only are you letting go of those stressors of the day for a little while, but you're creating those connections which are vital in recovery.
Absolutely. And there's a certain level of intimacy or a bond that gets created when people are laughing together and laughing at something if they're in a similar situation. And not only the connection, as you mentioned, the bonding, but, and I could geek out about this and I'll keep it short, but the research is out there, even for the wellness benefits of laughter,
Yeah.
the dopamine that's created, the lowering of a cortisol stress level, the increase of oxytocin, that feeling of a loving kind of feeling and bonding, helping with our heart health, our blood sugar level, all those different things research shows. So it is a good thing for us to do, for us to practice, and for socialization and connection, as you said. So I think that's a great way to kick off or start. We're working on a project together, Humor Heals, lifting hearts and opening minds. And thanks to in part to a grant from the Humor Therapy Fund, we're able to bring in Gab Bonesso from Pittsburgh, a nationally recognized public speaker and comedian. And you found her a couple of years ago. You had her speak on Zoom during the pandemic, and she was fantastic. And now we're actually able to bring her here in person for some really great events, speaking publicly. And again, I'll put this in the show notes, but she'll speak to the community in Honesdale on May 4th, a free event at the Cooperage. It's going to be great. May 5th, she'll be at the Scranton Counseling Center, a private event. And then in the evening, she's going to headline a comedy show fundraiser to raise some money for NAMI Northeast Region. And I'll be performing Mickey Orlowski, Paul Spratt, and Mary Raypatch. It's going to be a great night. But what is the importance, besides raising money, because that is important too, but someone like Gab, how important is it, or why is it important for her to bring her message here? Because she's someone who talks about her bipolar disorder, her years of that, and her whole journey, and she uses humor. Why is that important, Marie, for people to hear?
It's important because when we talk about our experiences, we give other people permission to talk about their experiences. There's so much stigma and shame and fear and misunderstanding and a whole host of words that we can wrap around mental illness and misconceptions. And when we talk out loud about it, whether you're in a support group sharing your experience, or on a stage, or in a Zoom square, as when Gab first came to us, you're sharing that experience. You're giving people permission to talk about their own experience. You're giving them hope that you can recover, especially if it's someone who is further along in their recovery, sharing their experience. You're giving hope, you're inspiring, and we spend so much time trying to keep those secrets because of the shame and the guilt and the stigma. So much time and energy is put into keeping those secrets, when number one, we're really not keeping the secrets. Usually people have an idea if somebody's struggling with something, but if all our effort is going into that, our effort's not going into taking care of ourselves and finding recovery. So we free up so much time and energy when we talk about our own experiences, when we're no longer hiding them. And when someone like Gab does it in a way that's just so open and I'm going to say matter of fact, that there's no judgment, there's no shame. She doesn't get caught down in the weeds of her story, which, I am sure if she were to share all the details, it would be difficult, but she's sharing in a way that inspires people. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah. And she was on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and she talked about how it's funny. She describes her stand-up as imagine Robin Williams on cocaine times 100. She's very high energy, but as she said, it's her mania, her bipolar disorder, excuse me, coming together with her art. And she expresses herself on stage. And she said for her, it's cathartic. It's peaceful to her brain, to her soul. It's who she is. But she also talks about how when she's finished, she's had people come up to her and say, hey, now I understand what my son's going through, or now I understand what, so she's kind of illuminating something for people that maybe if it's not them going through it, it's their family member, it's their friend. So maybe now they have a new understanding, a way to approach that person, or a new way to support them.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. So, sharing our story, we're not only inspiring people who have that lived experience, but we're enlightening and inspiring people who are part of their lives, because that shame, stigma, guilt, it's not only felt by the individual, it tends to be felt by the whole family and folks who care about them. So yeah, and we see that at our support group meetings, folks who share their own experience, really helping family members, family members of somebody else to understand things differently, to see things. It's very difficult when you're going through something really emotional with somebody that you care about to change your lens, to get out of the emotions that you're feeling. But when you listen to someone else share that, and you can align it with your loved one's experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's coming here. She's going to talk in Honesdale. She's going to perform her comedy, which is a little bit different. It's high energy. It's meant to be a show. It's ages 21 and over. So we're keeping that for the adults, the adult night out.
That's the Friday night one.
Yeah, that's Friday night.
Thursday night at the Cooperage is community and family friendly.
Right. Exactly.
And free.
And free. So yeah, we should mention the folks in Honesdale. It's free at the Cooperage. Anyone can come. It's all ages. So Gab will be sharing her story, and that's more of her storytelling, but with humor, of course, and addressing, and she will, of course, be open to answering questions from the audience. So again, that's Thursday night, May 4th. Now, Friday, as I said, is a show. So that's going to be performance, entertainment. Come, adults 21 and over, come and get entertained. But of course, as Gab said, she uses her life in her stand-up comedy. So she will be talking about her experiences with bipolar disorder in in her humor as well, but it's a different experience. So what else, is there anything else you would want? And I want to ask you about the evening of hope that you just had, but what else is there, or anything else that you'd want me to mention? I will, of course, put a link in the show notes when I promote this podcast of how people can get tickets and how they can register for the free event. But anything else that you wanted to say about Gab or about this experience, these few days that we're going to have her here in Northeast PA?
No, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really grateful to the Humor Therapy Fund to help us make this happen. Like you said, we've been communicating one way or another with Gab for a few years, and to be able to bring her to our community is exciting. You had briefly mentioned the show, the private show at noon. We're having at Scranton Counseling Center for the clients there, as well as the staff there, and we're very grateful to be able to offer that one and the Thursday night one at the Cooperage, the Honesdale one, at no cost to our community. We're grateful for the support from the Humor Therapy Fund. We're grateful that for the support from our community to be able to have the funds to do this, and we're grateful that Gab has agreed to give us 3 shows. 3, each somewhat different shows in one visit to our community. She's really flexible and accommodating, and we're happy for that. NAMI has really experienced a lot of growth and a lot of, again, support in our community. Been very welcomed by our Lackawanna, Susquehanna, Wayne counties, and we're grateful to be able to bring this message back. Gab's message, like you said, her storytelling on Thursday night at the Cooperage is, I'm hoping it will help people in the Honesdale community, in the Wayne County community, understand mental health, but also, be inspired, whether they've experienced mental health challenges or not, be inspired to take their life and make the best of it, and find humor in it wherever it is, and be able to put their stressors down for a little while and just enjoy themselves.
Yeah, and you raise a good point there. Whether you've experienced a mental health disorder or not, or you have someone in your family, we've all got challenges of varying degrees, and seeing someone, maybe they're a little different from you, but seeing them, how they've risen above it, how they're learning to cope with different things and using humor, I think is always an inspiration, so that we can look at that and say, I could try that. I could maybe add a little more humor to my life to face different things. Because again, I'm not saying we're all alike, we're not, but we all do have challenges in this life. That's for darn sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we do. We all experience stress, and I think very often we don't realize that we're feeling it until we're not feeling it, and then we say, oh, that's what it feels like to be relaxed. So after a night of storytelling with Gab, I'm hoping people will say, okay, this is what it feels like to let go for a little while, because life is stressful. You don't have to have a mental illness or be necessarily struggling with the mental health diagnosis to struggle with our mental health. And I think all of us now, I mean, we know, dare I say, post-COVID, I think we can safely say that we all have a much greater awareness of our mental health and our vulnerability, and the need to take care of ourselves, and the things that are important to us to maintaining our health. I think I don't think that you have to be a comedian to enjoy comedy. I think and I'm hoping that folks will go away with that understanding. Ways of finding humor in your day-to-day life, and if you can't find humor, well, then find a humorous video on YouTube. It's we're full of them, and then laugh for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to be a comedian to find the funny in your life, or to find, it does take practice, I will say, especially if you're someone who doesn't see that. It takes practice, but everyone can do it. But to your point, if not, if you're struggling with that or you just can't see it, then watch something funny, find something funny in life that can help you get that little break, like you said, to feel a little bit less stressed, to relax a little bit.
Mhm.
I want to ask you about, you recently, NAMI also celebrated, you had an event recently called Evening of Hope. And I know that was, this is the first time out since the pandemic started, right? So it was the first time that you were able to have this. But you had, I know you were planning and you have this really good speaker. What
Yeah.
were some, is there any like highlight or message that you'd like to share from that event?
Sure. I mean, we've been having the Evening of Hope. Traditionally, we had it during the fall, from, I want to say 2011 through 2019. And then 2019 was our last Evening of Hope until last Thursday night, when we were able to have it again. We decided on the spring for a number of reasons, just other things that we have going on. And it was a beautiful event. We had more people turn out than ever before. I think I want to say, because people missed us, people missed coming to the Evening of Hope. But I also, our speaker was a gentleman named Mark Shore. And Mark, his business was in hospital administration, but prior to behavioral health care administration, prior to that, Mark had a 20-year history of a serious drug addiction. And he, like Gab, his openness and his willingness to share his story and to share his experience is valuable. It's inspirational. It allows people, again, to believe that there is hope for them. And he shares that one of the ways that he found that was by listening to other people, accepting that sometimes we have to listen to people who have experience, especially when we're, I think he describes it, so deep in the hole that you can't imagine ever getting out of it. Trusting and listening to and believing in those people who have been there and have gotten out of it. And so listening to people share their story, whether it be in an inspirational way, in a comedic way, or in our support groups in just a very person-to-person way, is it's valuable. I believe it's a necessary part of recovery. I don't think that you can recover in a vacuum. You need those connections that comedy and other things bring us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important. There's a speaker that gave a TED talk, Johan, and I can't think of his last name right now, but he was very, I think he's also an author. Maybe he was a journalist too. He talked about the opposite of, of addiction not being sobriety, but being connection.
Yeah.
And that's probably so true, not just in whether it's drug addiction, but mental health disorders. We all need people. I mean, that'll sound people who need people, but it's the truth, because like you said, you can't do it alone. You can't do it in a vacuum. And those connections are so key.
Yeah. Well, isolation and withdrawal tend to be such a part of the experience of mental illness for a number of different reasons. There's the shame and the guilt, but there's also the symptoms themselves, that apathy that sometimes comes along, the lack of confidence, some paranoia that comes along with the experience of mental illness. And so, that's when it's incumbent on the rest of us to try to maintain those connections to somebody who's struggling. Mark Shore shared, he was in the hole, he couldn't imagine getting out. It was somebody else who reached to him and showed him the way out. Gab will, I'm hopeful, reach to people who maybe think, this is it. This is this is my life. I will be right where I am forever. And I'm hoping her sharing her story will let people see, no, there is a way. There is a way out. And so, those connections are vital. And I'm familiar with the speaker that you talk about. I'm every time, whether it's on WVIA's, the TED Hour, or every time I come across him, I'm always fascinated, and I always make sure to reshare him on our social media, because that connection, like I said, isolation is such a part of mental illness, but also folks who aren't experiencing mental illness, we don't know what to say, so we don't reach out. We really, in the suicide prevention community, we're really trying to share the message of reaching in so much more. You always hear people say, reach out if you're struggling, reach out, ask for help. Sometimes people can't. Their illness makes it very, very difficult, almost impossible for them to reach out. And so that's, again, when it's incumbent on us to reach in, to take care of each other, to pay attention. If we knew our friend was struggling with a physical health problem that could, be really problematic to them, and we didn't hear from them for a few days, we would reach out to them. Well, let's do the same thing for our friends who we think might be struggling with their mental health. Reach out to them, maintain those connections when they're having a hard time doing it.
Yeah. And it's important. I know you said sometimes, I think you referenced it, that sometimes people don't know what to say. And I know I follow NAMI Northeast PA, but also follow NAMI National or NAMI Communicate. And they often will put posts out there about, some suggestions of what to say, as opposed to dismissive language like, oh, it'll pass, or don't worry about it. Like, that stuff isn't exactly helpful, but saying, how can I help you, or can I come over, let's get together for coffee, offering something, those types of things, there is a way to offer your help, so don't be afraid. But any ideas or suggestions that you would offer along those lines?
Sure. First, like, validate their feelings. Like you said, don't, like, diminishing their feelings, dismissing their feelings doesn't make them go away. They're still feeling them. It very often only makes them feel worse. Oh, she doesn't think this is a big deal, but I think it's a big deal. What's wrong with me? So validating their feelings. We don't understand what brought them to those feelings. We don't understand. We don't have the same life experiences that they have. So we don't understand why this, whatever it is they're going through, is such a big deal in their lives. So validating their friends, and then, like you said, offering some practical help. Either asking, is there anything I can do for you? More often though, can I come over? Or I made a pot of soup and I have a lot of it. I'm going to drop a pint off for you. It'll be on your porch, or, or answer the door. Offering some very practical help. There's a movie, a comedy, of course, there's this movie I really want to see, and it's going to be on Netflix. Let's watch it together. No pressure, no, you don't want to force the person to talk about what's bothering them. You do want to listen if they want to talk about what's bothering them, and listen in a non-judgmental, accepting way. Like I said, validating their feelings, and then just offering, whatever kind of practical help. What can I do to help you? Somebody who maybe they don't know where to turn. Well, let's look and see what's out there. Let's see who your insurance covers. I'll sit with you and help you, because if anybody has ever, looked at their insurance network online and tried to find any kind of specialist, it's daunting. It can be overwhelming. And so just being with somebody, offering those practical things that we would offer anyone else who is struggling with their mental health, dropping a meal off, sending an encouraging note or text or card. Yeah. And then, recognizing if they are in some kind of a danger, to themselves, and being prepared to reach out, to 988 is a great resource if that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important. I think, unfortunately, so many of us are afraid about saying the wrong thing or about being uncomfortable, right? I think, years ago when I took improv, our instructor used to say to us, you've got to get through the fire to get to the cooling water. And it might sound dramatic, but life is full of different moments that are uncomfortable, but they're necessary. Having difficult conversations, they're necessary. And usually what happens is you get to good stuff on the other side. So let's not be afraid to be uncomfortable, because you might not get that chance again. If this person is really struggling, you don't want to miss that opportunity to offer some help when you can.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great program out of Australia, and it's just Are You Okay? The letters R, the letters U, letters O, letter K. They have a great website. They offer very practical, and it's something as simple as that. Are you okay? You're talking about, the communication and connection before. We know, 93% of our communication is nonverbal. And that include, when you include tone in that, only 7% are the words we choose. So certainly you don't want to say something judgmental or disrespectful, but I tell people, don't get caught up on the words. You can fix them. If 93% of your message is conveying empathy and support and caring and all those positive things, don't let that 7% trip you up because you don't know what to say. Something as simple as, are you okay? I'm worried about you. You haven't been doing the things that you used to do. Point out, don't label things. You've been acting depressed. You don't, stay away from labels. You've been acting really anxious lately. Talk about what you've been seeing. I'm worried about you because you haven't been joining us on Fridays for coffee anymore. I'm worried about you. You haven't been taking care of yourself like you used to. You're maybe your clothing is a little sloppier, or whatever reason that you're worried about them. State that. Don't label it. Don't try to diagnose them in any way, or ask them, don't ever ask them if they've been taking their meds, or just, are you okay? I'm worried about you, and then state why, and then offer that practical help.
Yeah. And that's great advice. I know this is not the same thing, but recently one of my good friends, her husband passed away of cancer. And, it's that difficult. And it was those times leading up to when it was getting bad. I said to her, I don't know. I know I don't have the right words. I know I don't have the right words to give you comfort, but I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you and I'm here to help you in any way, because I know I don't have the right words. Just like when we go to viewings, it's like, I'm sorry. We say that, but it's uncomfortable. We're there to support them, and we're showing our concern and our care and our love, but it's hard to know the right words. But if you at least try, and like you said,
Yeah.
offer that empathy, that sentiment, just like letting them know, I am here for you.
And I care. I've noticed that you're struggling, and I care. You're saying that, and my daughter recently went through something very similar with her friend who lost her dad, and my daughter reached out to me and said, I'm not sure, I want to support her. I see her struggling. I'm not sure what to do. And I said, well, say what you just said to me. Be honest, and recognize that she may not want to talk about it, but you can still be there for her without, maybe she wants to think and talk about something else, but being there for the person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where we get ourselves tripped up, because again, like you said, say what you said to me. I mean, you're saying, I am here and I care about you. I may not have the exact right words because I'm not sure what they are, but I want you to know that you're not alone. I'm here. So yeah.
Very often, I mean, there aren't really
Right words,
there's
right?
no magical words.
Yeah.
I like, after facilitating our support group, sometimes, I say to myself, I wish I could say, well, click your heels 3 times and say this. And there is no say this. You can click your heels 300 times and it's not going to make a difference. There are no words except I'm here and I care. And and I see that you're struggling, because, being seen, being validated is very important to us. Being seen and validated in a way that's not judgmental, uh, that maybe is hopeful, like it's going to be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you'll get through this, and I'm here and I'll help you, and can be helpful.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, as I said, I will put in the show notes the website, naminepa.org. I'll put the direct link so that you can register for the free event on May 4th in Honesdale, or for the May 5th event, the fundraiser. You could buy a ticket, or you can come to the door and purchase it that night. But I'll put all of those details in the show notes for the podcast and in the promotion as I share this podcast. But is there anything else in closing? I did mention May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So make sure that you follow NAMI NEPA is on Facebook, Instagram. Check out the website. Anything else that you'd want to highlight before we close up here, Marie?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're having in addition to these events, we are very often, NAMI can be found at the YMCA on Wednesdays, YMCA in Honesdale, Carbondale, and Greater Scranton, Wellbeing Wednesdays, where we do something called NAMI in the Lobby, where we're going where folks are, hopefully, and giving them information about NAMI, about what we do, about our programs in the community, and some of the programs that the Ys are offering now that are no cost. And I won't get into that. Folks can go on the Ys websites to find out more about those, but they are well-being programs. So if you wanted to have a conversation with somebody from NAMI, check us out there. We also will be hosting a 5K on June 4th in Holly. It is it was a suicide awareness and prevention 5K for 10 years, and the family that ran it, they were ready to hand it over, and NAMI stepped up, and we're taking that over. And now the focus is more on mental wellness, which to me, it's all the same on a continuum, wherever you are. Mental wellness is a part of suicide awareness and prevention, I believe. And so we'll be there at Holly on June 4th, and you can find out more information about that on our website on runsignup.com. I'm just finishing the details on that. There was some details I had to take care of to get us registered properly on that. I thought I did, and I didn't, and now we will be. So if you're a competitive runner, if you want a medal and a t-shirt, or if you want to come out and learn more about mental health and mental wellness, check out that event.
Yeah. Or speaking as myself as a non-competitive runner, if you're not going to go, every mile counts regardless of how fast you go. So,
well, then I will be seeing you on June 4th, right?
Actually, no, you won't, only because my cousin's getting married the day before. So I will be at her brunch, but I support those things. Those are great events. And, everybody get out there, get your steps in. I think it's a great idea.
Oh, and you know what, and anybody who's ever been to the park, Bingham Park in Holly, it's beautiful.
Very nice.
It's beautiful park. It's right on the river, and there's some trails, and Holly's just a really cute little town. So
yeah, it's a beautiful little spot to check out there. I know there's oh gosh, we did that thing the one day, the Soaring Eagles tour, that you're on the old railroad tracks and you can pedal, and it's just gorgeous up there. Yeah.
And that time of year, I mean, it always, but that time of year, then restaurants and breweries and those small town boutiques between Holly and Honesdale, and so you can support our event and make a day of it in Wayne County.
Yeah, support local. That's definitely very important. Nonprofits and businesses alike. So it'll be a nice afternoon afternoon, a nice day to spend there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Marie Onukiavage, Executive Director of NAMI Northeast PA Region. Be sure to check out the website, follow them on social media, and look in the show notes where I will have the link to our coming events on May 4th and May 5th. We're really looking forward to sharing Gab with Northeast PA. She's got a wonderful message. She's smart, funny, energetic, just a really great human being all around. So I think you'll definitely want to see her and experience her energy in person for sure. So, well, I want to say thank you to my listeners as always. If you enjoyed the podcast, or even if you didn't, share it anyway. Maybe someone else will enjoy it, but I hope you enjoyed it. And check out in the show notes, I also have a link to buy me a coffee. It's a way that you can support this podcast because there is a lot of work involved, and I'm celebrating 2 years this May. I'm super excited and proud of the content I like to share with you every week. I introduce you to someone new, ideally a woman. That's kind of my mission. I like to feature and highlight women and empower women. I like to inform, inspire, entertain. And if you're enjoying it, check out the link there in the show notes. And even if you don't have, maybe you don't have a couple dollars to support the podcast, you can also write a review, or you could just share it on social media. Tell a friend about the podcast so they could check it out. And that's also truly appreciated. So as I always say every week, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.